Boy, if only Ohio State had a capable quarterback. When's the last time we said something like that about the Buckeyes?
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
This Cotton Bowl game was supposed to be an audition of sorts for Devin Brown at the quarterback position, much like Miller Moss a couple of nights ago in the Holiday Bowl. But there was a big difference between what Miller Moss did in that game, throwing 6 touchdown passes against the Louisville Cardinals, and then what Devin Brown did in this game in the Cotton Bowl. Now, an injury took him out early in this game and really took that opportunity away from him to really prove to these coaches and really to Buckeye Nation what he could do. And just like that, Ohio State was down to their third quarterback, true freshman Lincoln Kienholz from Pierre, South Dakota. And just like that, the playbook went from about 100 to maybe 40 or 50. It really shrunk in size, and you could really tell by the way Ryan Day responded and by the way he called that game late in the first half and even going into the second half, the third quarter, and into the fourth quarter. This offense was extremely limited with Lincoln Kienholz at the controls. And when you look at this quarterback room as a whole, we all know about Kyle McCord entering the transfer portal and finding his way to upstate New York to play for Syracuse next season. When you look at McCord, when you look at Devin Brown, when you look at Lincoln Kienholz, when you look at all of these guys, look, you can say what you want. Kyle McCord, 37 or so yards away from an undefeated season, maybe a spot in the college football playoff for the Ohio State Buckeyes. But he wasn't at the level that Ohio State has been used to at the quarterback position, and you can definitely say the same about Devin Brown, who got beat out by Kyle McCord, and then, of course, Lincoln Kienholz, who could have a bright future at Ohio State, but still appears to be, at the very least, a couple of years away. That's why you've been hearing steam lately for Will Howard. Will Howard was on campus at USC, and Will Howard, the steam is picking up maybe for Ohio State to bring him to Columbus. Remember, the Buckeyes tried to get in on Riley Leonard after his Notre Dame visit, maybe tried to flip him at the last minute, but as we know, Leonard is making his way to South Bend, Indiana. There is a reason when this opened up, I said they're going to look to the portal because they have to look to the portal with Will Rogers coming into Washington, with Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, with J.J. McCarthy comes back at the University of Michigan. Quickly, the Big Ten Conference, Drew Aller coming back at Penn State with the new offensive coordinator. This is quickly becoming a conference that's pretty darn good at the quarterback position, and Ohio State needs to try to keep up. Maybe Will Howard will be that guy to be able to deliver them. I don't know if that guy is currently on this roster. I don't think it's Devin Brown. I don't think it's Lincoln Kienholz. And, of course, Kyle McCord is no longer on the roster. So I wanted to start with that. But now I want to jump to some positives that will actually eventually become a negative. That defensive line manhandled Missouri for 3 quarters. They dominated up front. Jack Sawyer specifically, he's been good all season long, but he went from good to great in this Cotton Bowl. Here's the problem with this Ohio State defensive line. They were relied on so much. There was so much pressure being put on them to keep the Ohio State Buckeyes in this game because of the lack of production on the offensive side of the ball. I've watched too many Iowa Hawkeye games the last 2 years to say this is something new, because it's not. I've seen this in Iowa City where the defense is so freaking good and the offense does nothing. And when the defense stays out there for longer drives, when you get late into the third quarter, in this case, when you got into the fourth quarter, the dam started to break. And that's when Cody Schrader started to run the ball a little bit more, because in those first 3 quarters, the middle was owned by Ohio State. Cody Schrader really couldn't get a lot going in the run game for the Tigers. But then when you got to that fourth quarter, they started to wear down and down and down and down. And then that's what happened with Missouri doing what they did eventually in the fourth quarter of this football game. They did a really good job bringing pressure. I thought Ohio State did. Jim Knowles has done a really good job, I think, with this Ohio State defense this year. It's been one of the best defenses, not only in the Big Ten, but in all of college football. Remember at the beginning of the broadcast, you had Tom Luganville saying, well, those defensive numbers might be a little bit skewed because of playing Big Ten offenses. Well, they did pretty darn good against an SEC offense in this one as well. Pretty good SEC offense, might I add, as well, because I thought Ohio State's positives on defense for three quarters really started with that four-man rush up front and the coverage in the back end on guys like Luther Bolden. Okay, because when that defensive line is getting as much pressure as they did by themselves, and when the coverage is as tight as it is on the back end, that's a recipe for defensive success, folks. Okay, and they kept it going for three quarters. They kept it going, but eventually it was just too much. They were on the field for too long. The offense didn't sustain drives. I want to get to this offense here now with Lincoln Kienholz specifically in the second half. He was able to make a good throw here. This offense was able to make a good play here and there, but they were never able to sustain it. I think that was a problem. That kind of goes back to why this defense, why the dam kind of broke in the fourth quarter, is because they were out there for too long and too much pressure was put on them. Once they got to midfield, once they crossed midfield, things started to stall out. They became a little bit stagnant, and that was the problem. I want to talk about TreVeyon Henderson a little bit as well, because he had some really good runs in this game, but maybe like the defense, they relied on him too much, and Missouri was really able to dial in on that. Missouri was really able to focus on Ohio State They needed TreVeyon Henderson, but then when you load 7 guys, 8 guys in the box, then you know what Ohio State is going to do, and you know that TreVeyon Henderson is the best source of offense for the Buckeyes. It makes it easier to defend. So there's going to be questions now at Ohio State. There's going to be a lot of questions with Ryan Day, because when you're at a program that has had as much offensive success that the Ohio State Buckeyes have had, where's your depth at quarterback? Where's your depth? Because even you could argue Kyle McCord coming in wasn't great with a generational wide receiver room. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, Julian Fleming, 2 of those guys, of course, no longer within the program. Marvin going to the NFL and Julian transferring out of the program right now. Where's the depth at quarterback? Okay, this is supposed to be a program that recruits at the top, at the quarterback position, and it has taken, you can say what you want. Whatever you think, how good you think Kyle McCord was this season, or whatever your opinion is on Devin Brown, I think we can all agree that this Ohio State quarterback room this year took a considerable drop down, because you're dealing with such a high level of quarterback, from Justin Fields to C.J. Stroud. You're dealing with NFL starting quarterbacks here. And these guys, the McCords, the Browns, and the Kienholz of the world, right now they are not starting quarterbacks at that type of level, and that's why Ohio State is trying to flip some of these transfer quarterbacks right now. There's going to be heat on Ryan Day. This next year is going to be a very interesting year for the Ohio State Buckeyes because of the increased amount of offensive focused teams out west. The USCs of the world, the Oregons of the world, the Washingtons of the world. This is going to be a very interesting offseason to see how the Buckeyes approach this, to see what their future looks like in 2024 and beyond.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.